Good evening. It is Wednesday night, 7 o'clock, and it is Map Talk time again. The host, Mr. McQuirk, has just arrived. He's asked me to just start it. So a very warm welcome to everybody. As per always, I will be keeping an eye on the comments. So please let us know where you're from. You're more than welcome. And on that exciting note, I think I'm ready to hand over to Glen. Glen, all yours.
Great. Always exciting to have a momentarily interruption. Great to be with you this evening, and I'm looking forward to sharing something exciting on our Mapped series. I think people have wondered, for how long can you continue with this concept of mapped? And I almost have the sense that this is unending, but we will stop at about 12 and today we are on 11. So we're going to be talking about something very interesting, and I trust that you're going to be sharing your comments and your insights this evening, because it's on a very important subject that is close to the heart of what Map for Life is all about. And if you've seen the introduction earlier on the thumbnail for tonight's session, you would have seen the word discipleship. And probably depending on where you were born or where you find yourself this evening, you may have your own ideas or own concepts of discipleship. But I want to speak to you this evening from a purely discipleship perspective and not have any other connotations linked to it, just to explore what it means to be involved or engaged in discipleship in some way, shape, or form. Now, this particular message that I'm going to share with you this evening was one of those revelational type messages. And when I say revelational, I was driving along in the city of Pretoria at about 9:30 p.m. last night. I was heading back home, and as I was driving along, a lightning bolt struck me. Now, of course, if anybody's editing this, it wasn't a real lightning bolt. It was a moment of revelation, a moment where you kind of see the light, a moment of inspiration, a moment where it was almost as if, how would we use the term? I don't even know what technology people use these days. You know, I've got something sitting on my desk here. You may have seen something like this before. Some of you might be looking at this and saying, my goodness me, you're still using one of those. Don't you know you can fit a terabyte of data on something smaller? Well, what's interesting about this device is, you know, when I plug it in, I can download stuff onto it, or I can take stuff off at a rapid pace. And last night while I was driving, it felt as if something had been plugged into me and there was this instantaneous download of information. I had to actually pull off the road and stop and write the stuff down quickly, because I knew this kind of information was important to document and to capture so that I could share it with you this evening. And so I'm going to use the mapped process just to share with you what I experienced or what I felt was absolutely essential to be incorporated into this concept of discipleship. So I'm going to start with the M, It's not necessarily the place I would have started if I was just giving a general talk, but because we're doing the MAPD series, I'm going to begin with the letter M. And what's interesting for me when it comes to discipleship, it actually talks about Glen, the other Glen that you'll be meeting a bit later on this evening. Gee, we've got lots of G's tonight. He was talking about the mastery program, and what was interesting about the mastery program is it links to discipleship in some way, and that discipleship is talking about mastery. So when you engage in discipleship, it is a sense. And when I say you engage in discipleship, if you are the person who would classify yourself as a disciple, it means that you are engaging in some form of study to the extent where you are striving to master something. So to some extent, the concept of apprenticeship that we use in everyday life could be in an interesting way similar to discipleship. So my father, he did his apprenticeship as a plumber, and so for a number of years he worked under the supervision of a qualified artisan. And initially when he started, he had to do things like clean up after they had finished working. He had to pack the tools away. He had to do all those basic things. And of course, when you start as an apprentice, the last thing you want to do is to clean the drain. But you find that you're given all those dirty tasks. And that's part of mastery, because when you want to master something, you actually need to understand all the intricacies of the entire process. So discipleship is about mastering something, but at the same time, in the process of mastery, there's mentorship that's given. And so my father, late into his life, still talked about the person that he worked under, and he would talk about the lessons that he learned, and not just lessons on how to be a good plumber. He talked about life lessons, and these are important things that happen through the aspect of mentorship. So mastery, mentorship, and these lead to things like movement, momentum. And I believe it's important that when you are engaged in some form of discipleship, that there's movement, because discipleship is about following something. You can't follow something that's not moving. There needs to be movement. There needs to be the person, the discipler, the teacher, the one that is providing the information needs to be moving, needs to be growing, needs to be getting better at what they do as well. So if you are mentoring or discipling somebody, it's important that you are also growing in your ability, in your expertise, in your profession. And so these were some of the key words that I was sharing last night. I see we have somebody who might want to join us as well. Now, I talked about following someone, and immediately what comes to mind is that when you follow someone, and I'm using what is the right word? I'm using a person. I don't know if that's the right thing to do, because often people begin to follow a man, and as a consequence, their life gets wrapped up in the wrong thing. What is perhaps the right thing to follow is the message. What is the message? And if you understand the message, that's where the principles are then understood, and you can take that further. But if you follow the man comes to an end at some point. The man will always disappoint you at some stage. So understand it's the message that resonates, and it's that message that is being passed on through discipleship. Okay, so those are just some of the M's that were quickly downloaded. It felt like it was digital, but it wasn't. Okay, so let's go and take a look at the letter A. And of course, in Map for Life, one of the things that we talk about very often is accountability. And accountability is an important part of discipleship. Are you practicing what is being taught? My father, if I go back to the apprentice situation, he was responsible and accountable for certain things, and it would be checked on from time to time. Are the tools in the right section of the toolbox? Are they clean? Have they all been collected at the end of the day? I mean, these are really basic things, but there was a form of accountability. And later on, when he actually started doing the work, there was always some kind of sign off to say, yes, the job has been done and done correctly and it meets standards. And I think in the same way in discipleship, there needs to be some form of accountability to the teacher, to the person who you are learning from. And that accountability comes in the form of giving feedback. Are you growing? Did you understand the message correctly? Have you, is there, here's another letter A, is there alignment? Or is the message that you're learning aligned with the original message? Or has it become corrupted along the path? And I think that is something that often happens when a message is shared. I think we've all participated at some point in our life with that. You have maybe 5 or 6 people sitting together in a line. We used to do this as teenagers, and you whisper a message in the ear of one person at the end of the line, and they pass that message along. By the time it gets to the 6th person at the other end, the message is unrecognizable. So it's really important in discipleship that there's some form of alignment. There needs to be a check. Is the message an exact replica? Is it being perpetuated correctly? Is it well understood? So it's important that alignment is there. I think another word that comes to mind right now is the word agreement. And I'm not talking about a legal agreement or contractual agreement. I'm talking that there's agreement in spirit. We are aligned to such an extent that we agree on foundational aspects. And once there's that level of agreement, then the participation or the passing on of the message becomes extremely effective. So agreement is an important part of this process. What's interesting about, or what was interesting for me, for the people engaged in being discipled, and for the teacher or the discipler, terminology is something that I'm sure we can all make up, both need to be available. It's amazing how many people want to master something, but whenever there is an opportunity for them to engage in the process of mastery, they're unavailable because there's something else on. I've got this happening, that happening, and life is so busy that they don't have time to make themselves available. They are not there to be able to attend, or to not only to attend, but to be attentive, to really listen. And these are important aspects. And when I say to listen, this is a two-way thing. It's not just the person being discipled that must be a good listener. No, the teacher has to be a good listener, because it's from that feedback that you understand whether the person has got the message. When I'm talking discipleship, this is very applicable to you and I involved in coaching. If we're coaching other people, these same principles apply, because in Map for Life, our focus is not just to coach somebody for a short season. Our focus is more on the idea of discipleship, where you walk a journey with somebody until you see real, tangible progress and transformation. This is essential. There's many programs out there where people go and they attend a coaching process. They have 6 sessions or 12 sessions or whatever it might be, and they pay the money, and that's it. They never see the person again until they have something else to sell them. In Map for Life, we want to be different. We're going to say, I love Dr. Yona. He says, you look like somebody who's going somewhere. Do you mind if I tag along? And that mindset, that heart is the kind of heart that we need to develop, to recognize that everybody is in a place where they are maybe grappling with new things, grappling with unexpected things, wrestling with questions that they might be asking. And if we understand that, then everybody needs a buddy to walk alongside them. And why not you and I be that buddy? Especially after last week's talk, when we talked about mental health, anxiety, post-pandemic stress disorder, and depression, especially in that context. Even more so, we need that person that can come alongside of us and walk with us for a season. And that, for me, is one of the hallmarks of discipleship. Okay, and some of you will be able to relate to a 3-year journey, and being able to walk. It's not overnight. Discipleship is not going to give you a lot of people today are wanting to shout out the numbers. On Sunday morning at church, we had 25 people who changed or made a decision to change their life. Great, big fanfare, trophies to the winner, or whatever the case might be. And there's great accolades that goes along with that. When it comes to discipleship, my friend, that is a long journey. You can't meet a person today and disciple them and tomorrow go and tell the world how successful you've been, because the success is going to come out over a lifetime. It's going to be in years from now when you're going to begin to see the fruits of your effort. So when we talk like that, if you are going to disciple others, you need to be passionate, passion beyond measure for what it is that you're going to be engaged in, because there's going to be disappointment along the way. With the passion, there comes perseverance, persistence, and most importantly, patience. I mean, these are key elements that a discipler has to have. I think in my time with Map for Life, the one thing that has become clear for me is that there is a culture today of instant gratification. We want to see results before we've even put any effort in. The money must come into our bank account before it's gone out, kind of thing. It's a whole different environment that we live in. So when I talk about things like patience, persistence, perseverance, and the dedication that comes with, we'll get to dedication in a moment, but the dedication that comes with somebody who's passionate about something, who's willing to live or die for an idea that's going to outlive their life, that is something that is not common. It is not common, okay? And so as I move from the letter P to the letter D, I'm sure you can already put some letters down there for yourself. And that is that to identify, or rather the people to disciple will identify themselves. How will they identify themselves? Well, they're going to have certain character traits. One of those character traits is diligence. They will be there, come hell or high water. They will be there. They're diligent. The word consistent. They like a heartbeat. I mean, they are regular. They are. You can count on them. Okay, so diligence. dedication, devotion. You know, they are all in. They're not just the person who's kind of checking in from the outside and prodding with a stick to see if something moves. No, they're in, hook, line, and sinker. And so those are the kind of people that when you find them, it's really, really important that you then demonstrate your patience, your persistence, your perseverance, because that mirrors the dedication, diligence, and devotion on the other side. And so when we look at these different words, I think maybe we're going to have a deeper, perhaps, understanding of what discipleship is, and considering all of these elements or aspects that I've talked about, I think it will give specifically the mentors, associates, partners, and directors that are part of the Map for Life Institute globally, it's going to give you a better understanding of what it means to be effective in passing on a message that can literally touch lives and transform people. And to do that effectively, it's a process that takes a real level of dedicated investment. And what excites me tonight is that our panel that is joining us are those kind of people. People you can count on, people that are dedicated, people that are always there. And so I hope that I have done this topic, well, let me say, I hope that I've introduced the topic sufficiently to spark a whole bunch of exciting ideas and discussion, because I'm sure you know by now, I do not know everything. Okay, just in case you thought I had all the answers, I don't. I have lots of questions that I have plenty of. What's lacking, sadly, is the answers that come with the questions. So I lay this before you this evening, and I invite our panel to discuss these different areas and to share their insights. And I also invite those of you who are listening on YouTube, Facebook, or wherever it might be, to share your questions. Tell us where you're from, who you are, and share your insights on this concept of discipleship. Because I think together we can get more clarity, we can identify the character traits necessary, and as a result, we can become great teachers and pass a powerful message on that can literally change people's future directory as in direction, where they're going in life. And it's been a really exciting message for me, and I hope that it is also an exciting message for you. So I'm going to just quickly tell you a little bit about the book Begin. So if you are a first-time visitor to the MAP show, the place to start with Map for Life is the Begin book. So I'm going to share a short little commercial on the Begin book with you, and straight after that, Henny and the panel will be back to take this discussion further. Thank you very much. Good night.
Yeah, thank you very much, Glenn. That was very enlightening. Before I introduce the rest of the panel, let me say good evening to everybody online. I'm going to start running through it as well. Rian from Leidenberg. Welcome, Rian. Octavia has greeted us and also saying discipleship is not a hit and run. And then lastly, Quentin from a freezing Cape Town. Quentin has posted two very interesting things already. A disciple is a practitioner of a discipline, calling the practitioner to be disciplined. Very interesting. And then, secondly, Quentin also published here most people believe a disciple is a follower, probably because of the religious context. But in reality, it means student, as in one who studies. And Rian is starting to ask questions. We'll get to his question right now. Rian, let me just get the panel on board. I'm going to add Glen, another Glen. All righty. Gustav, I'm going to get you on board as well. We cannot see Gustav, but I'm sure his voice is going to be good enough for us. So let's add him as well quickly. Good evening, Glen. Good evening, Gustav. I'm
Good
going
evening.
to give you
Good evening.
everybody like 30 seconds or so to introduce themselves. Glen, over to you.
Okay. All right. Fantastic. All right. The name is also Glen, obviously. Surname is Lease Jones. I've been involved with Map for Life from since 2013 and really thoroughly enjoying it. And it's certainly changed my life and turned things around for me. So that's me. Thank you.
Gustav?
Yes, I'm Gustav Pistorius. I'm a business consultant, and I joined Map for Life a year ago, and working towards becoming more and more involved. My work is from an industrial engineering side. I do business improvement work. So Map for Life is the perfect tool that assists one towards business improvement.
Thank you very much. Before I start asking questions to the panel around what they've learned from it, let me share what I got from tonight's session. And it's a few short things. The words practice what you preach, lead by example. And then what we often hear is don't do what I do what I tell you to do, kind of thing. I'm just thinking that what Glen spoke about for me tonight is really all about example. Are we living the Map for Life lifestyle? Are we living it in everything we do? Or are we trying to sell something to somebody else that we're not doing? And when I say that, I'm also thinking Map for Life. Is Map for Life living the Map for Life methodology as well? Are we doing that? I do think we are. That is living through. But I think we need to constantly just double check ourselves to say, if I believe in it, am I leading by example and will people follow me? Glen, what have you learned from the talk?
Okay, thank you very much. It's interesting that you spoke about that because everything that you've said now to me brings in one word, and that's the word lifestyle. To me, Map for Life is a lifestyle. It's not just a course that you do, it's a lifestyle. But yeah, there were a whole bunch of different things. I mean, when I immediately think of discipleship, I think of things like one who applies what is learnt. It's a form of study. I think it was Rion that mentioned one who studies. I think of it describes a journey of spiritual growth, and that could mean a whole bunch of different things. When I was going through the different words with Glen McQuirk in the different letters for MAPD, MAPD, I was thinking of other words as well and adding it to it. So the one thing I wanted to add for the M is actually McQuirk. He's the founder. Glen McQuirk is the founder of Map for Life, and all of us, the associates, the members, and everyone who comes on the course and does Map for Life becomes his disciples. If you think about it, we become disciples of Glen McQuirk because we study the methodology and we apply the methodology. It's interesting for me that he talks about one of the letters that are used in the letter A is accreditation. We need to be accredited to be a coach. We need to understand the methodology and apply it correctly, because if we don't, we'll be bringing across the wrong information. So that was the one thing. Back to the M, he spoke about movement, and I thought of the word mobile and mobility. That was just another word that I thought of. As far as the P was concerned, I didn't really have anything else over that I could think of. And then the D, I thought of the word durability. Interesting enough, when I think of Glen McQuirk, I think of durability. Strange enough, but he's been someone in my life that I see as a person that has stickability. He sticks with this thing no matter what, and he's stuck it out for 23 years, and he's going strong, and he's not going to give up on it. And I think that's absolutely brilliant. As a disciple of him, I think that's really required and needed in terms of any discipleship. And I think the last thing I wanted to mention was just the fact that if I think of the word discipleship, I immediately think long term, and I think of 10,000 hours. We often talk about the fact that you become an expert in your field if you spend 10,000 hours in that field. So yeah, that's pretty much me in a nutshell of what I've picked up from everything. But thanks again, that was really great.
Yo, that was a mouthful. Gustav, from your side?
Yes, if you turn it around, discipleship is also following a leader, and the leader must talk the talk, and then walk the talk, and then walk the walk. Now, to be a successful, to be a disciple, you have to do the same. You start off with walk the walk with a leader, then talk the walk, and at the end also talk the talk. So by doing that, you become the leader as a disciple also. So the disciple in the end becomes the leader also. If that is what Glen referred to as the mastery. So you start basically from a training part, then a part where you question, and then a part where you actually are more dependent on mentorship, and in the end you become the master yourself. And discipleship is about that journey.
Yeah,
I agree. So if I hear you correctly, discipleship is not something that happens to you. It is a definite decision that you make to become a disciple. That is something that you make a choice, and then you have to start following through on it. You have to take what you've got, adjust what you need to adjust, and then go and live that, and go in with an open mind. So discipleship has got a lot of learning. So by me coming in here tonight with an open mind and learning from all the wise words being spoken here means a little bit of discipleship is happening as we speak.
absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely.
And then
Correct.
one other comment: for most of my life, and I'm 50 years old right now, probably for 48 years of my life, I was taught that knowledge is power. And only recently did I find out that it's not the case. The application of knowledge is wisdom, and that is the power, not the knowledge. So, yes, Glenn, anything else you want to add?
Sure. I just think it's such an important aspect to look at this from a different perspective versus the typical spiritual perspective. And I haven't really thought about it that much from this perspective, and it's just been very interesting for me tonight. And I thoroughly enjoyed what Glen McQuirk spoke about tonight, and it's really made me think about it from a complete different angle. So I appreciate that, and yeah, really good. Thank you.
Gustav?
Yeah, I ask myself, what is the difference between a learner or student and a disciple? And the difference is the dedication. A student learns something and then walks away, applying it or not applying it, while a disciple sticks to what the person can learn or can master. And part of a mastery is the dedicated following of a leader until that person becomes the leader him or herself. So if you look at discipleship in terms of in a religious way, in religion you see a perfect example there. But also if you look at the way of the old samurai and the old fighting masters, they had their disciples as well, and those disciples became masters in, let's say, swordsmanship or whatever martial arts they practice. And they cannot do that. They cannot become those masters if they are not dedicated disciples of another master. So the difference between learning and being a student and with discipleship is the dedication.
So summarizing that, then it means that kids going to school are students because that's something they have to do. If you become a disciple and you want to study something, it might mean that you're actually following your passion. You're doing it because you want to enrich yourself, you want to make yourself better in whatever field you're running, so that you can share that good news, share that lifestyle, share that passion that you've got with the rest of the people, so that they can follow in your footsteps. So is it fair to say then that discipleship almost breeds leadership? Glenn?
I think when a successful, sorry Glenn, I think if you want to be successful, yes, and as a successful disciple, your target should be to become the master yourself as well. Because why will you dedicate your life and also I'm looking for the English word, but suffering. You suffer also because you have to let go of other nice things that you would like to do to be a disciple, which is part of your dedication.
Yeah. It continues to bring out all these words that Glen McQuirk has spoken about. I actually often refer to, in fact, you see this quite often in terms of the rabbis when they look for disciples. They will go to what they call the Bet Talmud. It's like the school of the book, and they'll call people out, certain disciples that they feel will be better than them. They will actually look for students who they feel will be better than them, and they pull them out and get them to follow them, and literally follow them. Interesting enough, if they see a particular child or person that's really starting to excel in the things that they do and say, they will literally tie them to their waist and let them walk right behind them. And they walk in the dust, and the dust comes up on their clothes. And that student will run home that evening and go, "Look, folks, look, the dust of my rabbi." It's such an interesting concept, because that's that discipleship following through. That there's such dedication, and they actually have to do absolutely everything in line with what the rabbi teaches and trains them. So you really see discipleship coming through in that aspect. And it's exactly what you spoke about just now, Gustav, regarding the samurais, etc. Various religions and things, you have that concept as well coming through. Very important.
Yeah, Rihanna's adding to it. He says, I think discipleship is more about the teaching than about the teacher. The teacher is important, but we sign on as disciples to incubate the teachings. And then following on from that, he say, we therefore take the seed of Map for Life, study it as it is now, and then grow it further, like the disciples took Jesus' teachings and grow it into the church. So, okay, let's just continue. While I'm on a roll, it's still Rian. Elijah's disciple did double the amount of miracles of his master. So if I then continue from that, discipleship is then not about success, but about significance. If I understand what you're saying, Rian, it's not about you, it's about what you can what you can do for the other people. And then adding to that what you said as well, Gustav, it's almost, when you get to the, let's call it the samurai status, it's almost about then leaving that legacy, leaving something behind that will still continue when you're not there.
Yeah, very much so.
Yes.
Interesting enough, if I can just come in here quickly, and I think Glen McQuirk actually touched on this point as well, and he spoke about the word accountability for the MAPD. That accountability works both ways, from the person who's discipling and the disciple. It works both ways, and I believe that both the discipler and the disciple can actually learn from each other too, so that it works both ways. That it's not just one person leading all the time. That if I'm discipling someone, I can actually learn from that person as well, and I need to accept that and grow in that myself as well.
That's right. Yes. Yes.
I'm at the stage where they've gone through it right now, but I had teenagers 3-4 years ago, and my advice to any employer out there was employ these guys because they know everything. You're at the stage where they know everything. They can tell you about everything. They're just at that stage, and it's good that you get to that point. But I mean, if you get to the point where you do think that you know everything, that you cannot learn anything more, then you've got a big problem. You've got a big problem. If I ever reach that stage, then I've lost the purpose in life. If you've got a mindset of learning, even if you walk into something like a meeting in the office, if I go in with a mindset of learning something, if I come into the talk like tonight with a mindset of learning, I will take something from it. And I've spent some time with Peter Darrell as well right now. And Peter is, and I think I spoke about it last week. I call it the GLS. He says that every day you need to write down your gratitude, your learning, and your success. At least one thing from the previous day. And I think the learning for me really comes out in tonight's discussion as well, to say, if I have not learned anything, am I then really a good disciple? I'm asking the question. Maybe you guys want to elaborate on it.
Just ask that question again. I just want to make 100% of understanding.
If I am not learning anything during the day, does that mean I'm not a disciple? Is a disciple's job not to learn, to study every day? So is it fair to say that if I don't learn anything during the day, if I wake up tomorrow morning and I need to put down something under my L and I can put down nothing, does that mean I wasn't a disciple the previous day?
I wouldn't say that, because for me it's not about performance, because that tends to push someone towards performance all the time, and then it becomes a bit of a condemnation issue. So I don't think so, but I do believe, however, that we need to go in with that attitude on a daily basis of, what can I learn today? I've certainly made it a lifestyle again of that. Whenever I go on a course, whenever I listen to people talking, whatever it is, whether it's a map cafe, whether it's a map talk, whether it's a talk like this, I try and take, even if it's one nugget, and take that nugget, look at it, work with it, apply it, and give it out. And I've made that a habit. And so it does tend to, as a result of that, tend to happen on a daily basis. I learned several things through the day today, from the Map Cafe this morning right the way through to tonight. And even tonight I've learned things. And that to me is just amazing. It really is. I don't ever want to stop learning. To me, I want to be like a sponge. I want to suck everything up and then give it out again and squeeze it all out,
Gustav, your take?
Yes, I don't see it as a learning experience, a daily learning experience. I see it as a long-term learning experience, but also a journey of growing muscle memory. And muscle memory, I also mean your brain memory, that it becomes part of your subconscious, a way of life that you learn, but it also becomes a way of life and part of your subconscious and even your muscle memory. And for that, sometimes you have to repeat the same thing, not learning on a daily basis, but gradually growing and learning new things on a medium to long-term basis.
With you, that makes sense. A very wise man that's in the background tonight, also called Glen, says, I think that if you're teaching others, you have a responsibility to continue to grow. And maybe practice is also part of a learning process, like learning to drive, perhaps. So taking what you said right now to the next level, then, should discipleship then not be part of our purpose? Is our purpose not almost intertwined with discipleship? To say that if discipleship is not part of my purpose, maybe I'm on the wrong track.
Sure. Wise words. I believe that is absolutely true. That is definitely part of it. Very much so. I have no doubt about that.
Yeah, we must multiply. We must be disciples, but also create disciples. And so it is a continuous process actually of growing other people to also grow disciples.
True. Rihanna's responded, yeah, I agree, Mr. Lee Jones. And then Glen also mentioned mentorship, and mentorship is teach and learn. I think it was Einstein that said, if you want to know if you know something very good, then go and teach it to someone else.
Absolutely.
And I think if the Map for Life lifestyle is something that I want to go and teach somebody else, that I want to go and share with someone, if I don't live it, it's going to be very difficult for me to go and tell other people about it. So I get back to what I said in the beginning: the practice what you preach becomes really, really, really important. And I almost want to simplify it by saying is, if I live this lifestyle the way that I should, it almost starts to become a habit, something that I can do without having to think about it. If I hit that point, I think I would be very good at teaching it to somebody else. But I need to do that, and I don't have to wait for that before I can. But I think that should be the aim, is to say, be a disciple, live the lifestyle, and people will see you doing it. But you will also be equipped then to go and talk to people and say, let's do it.
Very much so. Absolutely. Yeah. So true.
Quickly, Quentin is also saying, be fruitful and multiply. So let's try and go a little bit deeper. So let's say there's people on the call tonight that says, well, how do I become a disciple? And then what is the steps that I should follow to become a disciple? What would be your advice? I mean, it's a tricky question, putting you on the spot. I'm at the point in my life where I think Glen calls it directionless existence. I'm at that stage. As an example, I want to make progress. I want to go somewhere else. I want to actually mean something. And as we said right now, you almost need to intertwine discipleship with your purpose or your goal. How would I start something like that?
From my side, I always look at the person's gifts and talents. That's where I start with someone in terms of their purpose, because I really believe that's where you need to start, and you need to work from there. We've all been created with gifts and talents, and that needs to come out. It's something that's a gift that needs to be given. And as a result of that gift and talent, that's normally in line with your passions and desires as well. So as a result, it makes it a lot easier to start discipling in that line and in that field. And you also fall back into good habits as far as those gifts and talents are concerned far easier, because it is your passion and desire. So that's where I would start, put in a nutshell for you. And then obviously we'll take it further from there.
So what you said right now, just simply put, it's almost, if I think about it, in the Map for Life methodology, the first step, establish your position. It's almost that step of saying, just take stock of who you are, find what the best in you is before you start going further.
It's exactly it. It's exactly.
Gustav?
Yes, you can have several. You can be a disciple of several people, also depending on what area you wanted to grow. And I think the important thing is you must decide in what area do you want to grow, and what is the best way to grow in that area. Is it via mentorship, coaching, or becoming a disciple of a person that is a leader in his own field or her own field? I can give you an example. I'm just thinking loudly, and it may not be a good example, but I'm questioning myself many years ago, a couple of 100 years ago, when I had to do military service, there was a guy that trained us, and I hated that guy because he was smoking, he was swearing, he was drinking, and it wasn't part of my way of seeing a person as an example. But I followed him, and I grabbed everything he taught me, and I said to other guys also, you better follow this guy, because I realized if I learn from him and I do what he says, I will stay alive in a war situation. And I'm asking myself, being dedicated to his teachings, even if I hated him, wasn't I a disciple actually? Because I always told other people, follow this guy. Never mind if you like him or not. You follow him and you will stay alive. And so maybe that's also a type of discipleship. But
Very true. Very true. Adding to that, into the question that I asked, Quentin's answer was, I think discipleship starts with a decision. And I almost think the psychological or the psychology side says, I cannot help you if you don't recognize that you've got a problem or that you want to make a decision. And I think it is almost that serious. You have to make that decision to say, from today on, things will be different. Rian is also asking us questions. Am I discipled in a discipline or just discipled in life in general? He starts answering it by saying, my understanding is that I am discipled, for instance, in Map for Life. And if I did not learn something today, am I not a poor disciple? So let's throw out the question to you guys as well. Am I discipled in a discipline or just discipled in life in general? What do you think?
From my perspective, I think there's opportunity for both. We can be discipled in life in general about various aspects, whether it's in your work situation, whether it's your family life, no matter what it is. There's always discipleship required in terms of those things as you grow, from a little toddler baby all the way up to an old man, old lady. And then there's obviously, in terms of purpose, gifts and talents, that you can actually focus on a specific talent, a specific gift or a specific vocation, and you want to focus on that particular area. That's also something that you can do. And what we spoke about just now in terms of that decision, you need to then make a decision on what you want to be discipled with, and then focus on who can actually disciple you in that particular field, whatever you want it to be. It could be a sport that you want to be discipled in, and you could go to a particular coach in that sport to actually be discipled. I think of my son playing tennis. He wants to be a tennis player, professional tennis player. So naturally, we need to get a tennis coach, and a very good coach, to actually coach him to ensure that he's disciplined in those areas and that he gets better and better on a regular, consistent basis. So that would be his focus. At the same time, I'm coaching him and discipling him as my son in life in general. So I think there's room for both.
Cool. Gustav?
yes, and I agree with that, and it needs to be followed. But it will also affect the other areas. Taking the example of a tennis player, it will affect the other areas of his life as well. So you cannot totally isolate it, but you have to decide. Is it tennis, or is it cycling, or is it business, or whatever?
Agree. Quentin adds to it in saying life in itself is a discipline if the intent is to live meaningfully, in other words, with purpose, which is true. Agree 100%. And Octavia adds to this in saying, if I use discipleship loosely as purpose, plug in Map for Life tools to help you overcome the distractions in the journey of living your purpose. So on this journey of discipleship, Map for Life does give you some tools that you can use. And then adding to what you were saying as well at the end, one of those tools is the Wheel of Life. which says there's 8 areas in life that you actually need to balance, that you need to have discipline in. And if one of them is going to lack, it is going to slow you down. From Glen's side, a thought: when you are a disciple of a particular way, you do not lose your unique identity in the process. My father became a plumber, not an artisan that discipled him.
Very good. Excellent.
That's right. Yes.
Yeah.
I think that summarizes it actually very well. Right? You are a disciple of a particular way, but you don't lose your identity.
Absolutely.
So that means that even though discipleship has got the same meaning, the followers of that discipleship may still have their own unique personality, skills, traits, talents, gifts, and do what they need to do. And that in itself, I think, then makes this almost a perfect solution. There is no way that you cannot then do it, because if I do not have the skill and I've partnered with someone else. Let's take the example of what we've got tonight. The three of us on screen and Glen in the background. The combination of what we've got there makes us a lot stronger. So I think discipleship then, for me, is not for one person. I think that is, everybody's got their own journey, but I think together it is just so much more powerful. It's one person can make a small noise, but if you start adding 50,000 people in a sports stadium, the noise is going to be so much bigger. And for me, that's what I read there. So we need to live as disciples so we can find other disciples that can follow us and that can just grow and make that a lot bigger. I see time is catching up with us, and I think load shedding is going to hit me at 8 o'clock, so I don't want to be thrown off here. So I think what I'm going to do, from the listeners, any final questions from your side, please throw them on the screen. Glen, from your side, last idea, thought?
I just love the idea of discipleship. I just think it's so synonymous with everything that we do, and specifically around Map for Life. And so I certainly don't see it. A lot of people would see it as a negative word, and I certainly don't see it that way. I think it's an absolute honor to be a disciple of someone or something that you do. And I really believe that we should all be open to learning continuously and really be dedicated to that.
Agree 100%. Gustav, from your side?
Yes, I'm just. I was thinking about the difference between mentorship and discipleship. Mentorship is there's a very close link to that, but mentorship is something that you sometimes have to do. For instance, I had to go through a mentorship program as to become to register as a professional engineer. But discipleship is different in the sense that it is there's no pressure, but it is freedom. It's pressure that you put on yourself in the sense of what do you want to learn, and it is and you can walk away if you want to. It is not something that you have to do. It's something that you want to do.
Very, very true. Rian says, be open to be discipled. Okay, it jumps up, and be a teacher at the same time. All right. Quentin says, very thought-provoking topic tonight. Invaluable insights gained. Thank you, everyone. Yeah, it was a pleasure, Quentin. We learned from you as well. Octavia says, I love the emphasis from Glen on gifts and talents. You are not a copy. God will use you as He created you to be at discipleship journey. And then I think Glen is also not asking anything. I'll speak to him just now. I think from my side, I always close with a quote, and I've got one tonight, which I think we can probably substitute a little bit in. It says, if you are not pursuing your dreams, you are fueling your limitations. And for me, discipleship comes through here as well. If I'm not learning, if I'm not being a disciple, and discipleship must be part of my dream, I'm actually fueling my limitations. If I don't want to learn, I'm feeling limitations. So go and pursue your dreams, and be that. And Ronald has joined us. Discipleship is an added value to gifting or dreams. So true. It was an honor to share the panel with you tonight. Thank you very much, everybody. Have a blessed rest of the evening. Have an awesome week. Remember to be disciples, go and teach, but don't forget to learn as well. Glenn, thank you very much. Gustav, thank you very much.
Andy.
To everybody.
Thank you, Gustav.
Cheers.
My pleasure. Thanks. Thank you. Thanks. Bye-bye.
Okay.